Hey everyone, this is Nate from Geezer Skate, and in this episode, we're talking about old school shapes, old school inspired products from new school companies. So I set out to challenge myself to see if I could create a fully functional old school style setup using only new school products. As you'll see in this episode, I was able to do it. Loving the old school skate scene the way I do, I wanted to see if there were new school, old school inspired skate products that I could use to create a fully functional modern setup with old school dynamics. So join me as I put it all together and then take it out for a test run. Every great setup starts with a deck. And for this one, I chose the Scram Whopper. This is a big, beefy deck. This bad boy measures 31.5 inches long by 10.25 inches wide at its widest point. Over the back trucks, you're looking about 9 inches wide, and then over the front trucks, it narrows down just a bit to 10 inches wide. This bad boy sports a 15-inch wheelbase, which is just about perfect for me. Even though I'm tall at 6 feet 4 inches, the majority of my height is actually my torso area, and my legs are actually not that long for as tall as I am. That's the funny thing. I've got a really kind of short inseam for given my height. In fact, the funny thing is my wife, who is several inches shorter than me, has very long legs, and we actually have the same inseam. We're going to start out with the Scram Whopper. But I loved the color palette. Looks like it could be some kind of mystical creature done up in a New Mexico studio somewhere. It's really cool. I dig it a lot. Scram was started by Lil Jawns, who after leaving Welcome Skateboards started Scram, and just all these great shapes. There's just killer old school inspired shapes. In fact, like this Whopper here kind of feels like a cross between a Tony Alva and maybe a Christian Hosoi board from the 80s. Really dig what he did there with all of these shapes, and then he also kind of created his own language. If you go to their website, scramskates.com, you can see everything's got a real, all of the descriptions, or he has like this own slang that he made up to describe his products, which is really cool. It's kind of reminiscent of A Clockwork Orange. If you've ever read the book as opposed to just seeing the movie, the book really goes into the crazy slang that Alex and his friends used. So I highly recommend reading that. So anyways, Scram Skates, very unique company, really dig them a lot. These boards are definitely not easy to find. I found this at our local skate shop, The Point, a few years ago. So next up, we are gonna go with the Ace trucks, the AF1s. So these bad boys, this is the 77. And I love what Ace has done with this truck here. So this is pretty much an updated version of the Independent Stage 3, which of course was one of the most popular trucks in the 1980s. And so this just improves upon that in pretty much every way, using much stronger aluminum. So in theory, this should never bend. Of course, you can't say never ever, but you shouldn't really never have an issue with these trucks bending. Really cool thing, they come with a rethreading nut for each axle, so that way if ever cross thread or your threads become stripped, you can always rethread them using this right here. So that's awesome. So you might want to, once you put your trucks together, take that off and put that maybe on your key ring or something, so you always have it with you. Another great feature of these is the bag. Now what the heck, why would the bag be a good feature of this? Well, this plastic bag here is 100% biodegradable and compostable, meaning you can put this in recycling and it will actually recycle. You can actually use this, on your garden as part of compost, and it will fully degrade into the earth and actually help plants grow. That is an amazing thing. I really appreciate Ace doing that, so kudos to them. Hopefully other brands in the skate industry will start working in the recycling, upcycling and all of that, because as we know, all of this stuff does break apart, get destroyed, and then tossed out mostly, unless it's donated into a museum and hung up or something. But I'd love to see more brands doing something with recycling or upcycling. And if you know of any brands that are doing this, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to support more companies like that. After the Ace, we're going to be using Lil Jawns. We have his replica of the cell block that will be used for the back truck. Then we just have a regular block that'll be used for the front truck. Had some camera issues, so we missed out on the part where I was actually putting together the back truck here with the cell block. So I just wanted to show you this real quick, and then also let you know about the two tools that I'm using. I'm using the Superfly skate tool, which I love. This thing rocks. And then I'm also using this handy dandy IKEA multi-tool. Alright, so there is the front and back trucks on there. So now we'll take off the axle threaders. One thing I forgot to mention about these Ace trucks that just makes them that much more awesome is if you forget, what on earth size you have, even though like on the outside, so these are 77, they're 77s, which if you've used the Ace Classics, the new numbering system doesn't correspond to to how wide the old ones are. So if you're used to riding 66s on the Classic, the AF166 is a different size. So one thing you can do though is you can see here on the axle itself, here where the wheel sits, it actually tells you how wide this is. So the Ace 77s are a 9.5 inch wide truck. For this deck, they're the perfect size. On Ace's website, they have a chart listing what each of these numbers corresponds to in terms of truck width. And I believe they also have a comparison for how these compare to the Classics as well. So you might want to look up on that. Don't assume that an Ace 66 or 77 corresponds to the same width in the Classic, because they do not. All right, so there you have it. What do you think? My old school inspired new school setup. Again, this is with a Scram skateboard deck. The Whopper is the shape. We've got Ace 77 AF1 trucks, Lou Krew wheels, their collaboration with Scram, so perfect for the deck here. And then Lil Jawns cell blocks and just regular blocks. Oh, one more thing, almost forgot the rails. If you haven't checked out our website recently, why don't you click on over there and check out some of our blogs we've got, one of which is talking about rails. And the popularity of rails has risen quite significantly over the past year. And so with that rise in popularity then, has come in the conversation about where to place these rails. You can do it in a couple different ways. You can do it towards the outside to make it easier for gripping during aerial tricks. But the thing with going out further is with especially deeper concaves, you still leave your bottom graphic open to getting scratched. Now you can come in closer here for whenever you're doing board slides, and this will give more contact area to the rail itself rather than the board, giving you a nicer, longer slide. Of course, the problem with doing that is then you cover up more of the graphic. Given that my skate style these days is not doing a whole lot of board slides, I'm going to put it further out so I don't cover up as much of the graphic. But depending on your skate style, you might want to bring it in a little closer to the middle there to get maximum contact with the rail itself. And these are nice because they have double stick tape on the bottom, so you can get them in position first before you start screwing them in. That's what I think I'll put this one for this particular setup here. All right, so there it is. What do you think about this? My old school inspired new school setup. Again, we've got the Scram Skateboard. This is the Whopper shape. Got the Ace AF177 trucks. We got the Lou Krew X Scram collab wheels, and the Lil Jawns protective equipment, the rails, cell block, and just regular block. If you like this video, check out one of these others for more great content featuring old school, ripping, interviews, how-tos, assemblies, etc., etc. This stuff will change your life.